China is doubling down on its version of capitalism, that magic mix of market competition and loads of exports alongside strong state direction and Communist Party control. And despite years of complaints from Western countries like the United States and those in the EU bloc, there's little chance that Beijing is going to take its foot off the gas pedal. And what can the West do to stop these waves of exports that are headed to their shores? It turns out it's not much. I'm Cassandra. You are watching The Dip, the podcast where we examine money, power, and consequences. And today we are looking at what cards the EU and the US have to play in the run-up to trade talks with Beijing in the coming weeks. And to do that, I'm joined by two fabulous guests. Up first, I have Alicia Garcia-Herrero. She's the chief economist for Asia Pacific for the French investment bank Natixis, joining us today from Taiwan. And we also have on the line Shirley Yu, senior visiting fellow at the London School of Economics, joining us from DC. One of the buzzwords that we're looking to break down today and get past is, of course, China Opportunity 2.0 versus China Shock 2.0. Shirley, what's the argument of China Opportunity 2.0?
China Opportunity 2.0 was a phrase that was raised by Chinese Premier Li Qiang recently at the Davos Summit in Tianjin. But it's really Made in China 2.0. So Made in China was a decade-long industrial policy that ended at the end of 2025. And as a result of it, China has developed global dominant manufacturing industries, primarily in the high-end sectors such as EVs, lithium batteries, solar, etc. But as a matter of fact, as of the beginning of 2026, these industries are no longer receiving state subsidies, and the state document named them as mature industries, and therefore leaving their survival to competition itself. And China's overwhelming focus right now is shifted to what's called the new quality productive forces, a new decade of China's innovation-centric industrial policy era. And it's really what the premier implied when he talked about Opportunity 2.0. So these new industries that China is heavily investing in are in the semiconductors industry, AI, new telecom infrastructure, space technology, quantum computing, and biotech. So there are some key shifts between 1.0 and 2.0. So one prominent one is that under Opportunity 1.0, China primarily exported products. But under the new Opportunity 2.0, China will begin to export more ecosystems. And so currently, nearly 50% of the global token usage on AI are spent on Chinese AI platforms. So the world is heavily adopting Chinese cheap but efficient AI models to build its AI applications. So China's export of the future tech ecosystems will undoubtedly have huge consequence for the global economy, which certainly will not be built on socks or shoes, but on AIs.
Yeah, so China long been seen as the factory of the world, moving away from socks and shoes and maybe plastic toys that people might be thinking about to this higher tech kind of exporting. But Alicia, how has this rebranding attempt that we were hearing in Davos, summer Davos that is, gone over in capitals around the world?
Well, I would say that we are listening to these new production forces, but that doesn't mean that the old production forces are really old, aren't they? They're still there. And China still wants to export EVs and solar panels to the world. That's not going to stop anytime soon. And if you really go down the drain, even textiles for that matter. In fact, let me give you one thing that probably will be very surprising for our audience. What is the product that is growing the fastest in terms of Chinese exports? Is it solar panels? Is it EVs? No, it's tobacco to Europe. Yeah. And textiles is not doing it's not doing badly either. So China, and this is Jiang Shenhuan's, MIT professor's recent article, China really aims at total comparative advantage. So yes, we hear about AI, and I'm sure China will try that, and services more generally, digital services, iCloud, you name it, yeah? But AI cloud, sorry. But that's not all. China also needs to feed the West. It needs to feed lower wages. And for that, China will continue to export its way out beyond the new sectors. And that means that if we think we've seen it all in terms of Chinese exports hitting our shores, well, we've not seen it all. It will be even more than that. So, that is a big question for the rest of the world. What can we do about it?
We've been talking about exports quite a bit because the Chinese market right now, or the Chinese economy, I should say, is really relying on exports. Alicia, help us understand why. Why are exports such a big part of the plan right now?
Because nothing else is growing. That's why. If China had to rely on its own domestic demand, China's growth rate would not have been 5% last year. It would have been probably 2/3 of that, which is little, yeah. That would have been around 3.5 or so. But China's income per capita, still the catch up with the West and the catch up, with the US in particular, cannot happen at 3.5. And because furthermore, China was at that time, 2025, still under severe deflationary pressures. Nominal GDP growth was even lower. So, there's no possible catch up with such a low growth without exports. So in a way, for China to continue to catch up, exports are needed. And I think for China to also offer a reasonable increase in disposable income for its citizens, exports are needed because nothing else is growing again. And fixed asset investment second quarter was negative. Not only the real estate, let's not think that everything relates to the real estate. Even manufacturing capex was negative. Even infrastructure fixed asset investment was negative. And consumption was hovering around 1%, as Shirley rightly pointed out. So without exports, there's not enough growth in China that can really, keep the model going.
Shirley, how has this gone down in Washington, D.C.? Turning to China from the D.C., the United States perspective, I wouldn't imagine that there would be, politically at least, and maybe that's only part of the story, this being seen as an opportunity so much as a threat, to be honest.
In the U.S., it's certainly primarily seen as a threat, particularly coming from the Chinese tech frontiers. The U.S. has just recently banned the export of Chinese humanoid robotics into the U.S. market. But we'll take a look at specifically the nuances from the U.S.'s perspective vis-a-vis Chinese exports in a little bit. So I agree with Alicia in the perspective that just because China is driving the further acceleration of exports of the frontier industries of the future doesn't mean that China is eliminating the export of the products that comes from its domestic capabilities from low end to high end products. And the other caveat I would like to add is that just because the consumption and the investments are not growing in China does not necessarily mean that China's exports will indigenously grow. It's growing because there is economic complementarity. It's growing because China has the product capacity and the manufacturing supply chains. And so for the US, obviously, if you look at Chinese AI models such as Kimi, you cannot, it doesn't go through customs. And so you cannot add tariffs. Tariff does not work. It's bought in the clouds. And so for the US, the banning seems to be something that the White House has been contemplating to completely eliminate the Chinese open source models from the domestic marketplace. But for Europe, I think the stance should be very different. I've heard European AI companies today are using Chinese open source models to develop AI applications for third markets in the Middle East, in Africa. And if you look at the recent Fable ban, Europe has no say in this. Europe has to take sovereignty from the United States. And so I think in looking at the global tech bifurcation in the future, Europe does have both a threat and an opportunity to hedge with Chinese tech ecosystems.
I want to just remind listeners, Shirley, maybe you can help me do this. This is being called China Opportunity 2.0, but then there must have been a 1.0. What was that iteration like, and what were the consequences for the West?
The Opportunity 1.0, as mentioned a little bit earlier, is primarily China as the world's factory and exporting products from low end to high end. And the Opportunity 2.0 is going to be the era in which China will become the R&D, one of the major R&D centers of the world, and beginning to export more tech services, tech ecosystems, and particularly ecosystems that are becoming the infrastructure for the global AI economy.
China has, by some numbers that I was looking at, a $1 trillion with a T trillion dollar trade surplus with the world. Given those figures, even if the West did want to call this, China Shock 2.0 and do something about it, isn't there not really much that they can do to negotiate over this? What can we see from this, Alicia?
Well, we can do much more than we dare do, because China has an obvious weakness, which is that it's basically growing out of exports. So, when that in itself is leverage for the West. I agree with Shirley that the fastest growing markets are in the global South, but that is only true in gross numbers, meaning when you look at value added, say EVs, with a lot of obviously much higher value added than tobacco for that matter, there actually you have 60% of EVs exported to Europe only. And in the case of batteries, that's even higher. So, as you move up the ladder into the real value added, Europe is very important for China. And the US is increasingly less important for obvious reasons, which makes Europe more important. Now, when you come to the point of, then why don't we do anything? It's because Europe has not been designed, if you want, to take actions that would really show that leverage, meaning be able to close that market. I'm not saying we should, but the point is nobody would ever believe Europe would be able to do that. So because of that, even if we are large, we look small, and we don't have bargaining power with China in the current trade discussions. Yeah.
From the U.S. side, Shirley, is the vibe there that, enough has been done, there's tariffs, there's deals, we're good, we're protected? Or what is the U.S. thinking about doing, considering that this is either a shock or an opportunity, depending where you're standing?
For the U.S., the strategy is primarily restrictions, export controls, and banning of Chinese products from the domestic market. The U.S. can afford to do so because it has a robust domestic tech ecosystem sitting at the very frontier of the global economy. If we look at the Silicon Valley AI models, they are the best in the world. If we look at the humanoid robotics industry, yes, China has shipped over 84% of the global humanoid robots as of 2025, but Figure AI, Tesla are both coming up with cutting-edge humanoid robots domestically. So the U.S. can afford, because it has a domestic supply chain, and if needed, the U.S. can bring more supply chains back onshore. But I think Europe is encountered with two problems in its regulatory policies vis-a-vis Chinese trade. The first one is the EU regulators are targeting the industries of yesterday, or yesterday's success. The EU is looking at the EVs, the lithium batteries, and solar industries, which are no longer being subsidized by China. And if the end goal is to address industrial subsidies, then they are absolutely targeting the wrong industries. They should be targeting the industries of the future rather than the ones of yesterday, just very much like what the US is currently doing. But the other problem for Europe, as Alicia has really incisively pointed out, is that if you look at the world's top 10 AI fabs, by usage and efficiency. 5 are from China and 5 are from the US. And so where does Europe sit in the future of the global economy? So it either falls into the US take sovereignty, or it can choose to make the marketplace appealing to all competitors, essentially, so that Europe will be in a position to hedge one against the other. So I think for Europe, the responses today are a bit outdated, and it really needs to come up with a industrial policy to resuscitate Europe's future economies, particularly in building its tech ecosystems that are suitable for the AI economy.
I want to zoom in on one thing you mentioned, Shirley, which is subsidies. And Alicia, I'm hoping you can help me with this, because this is a complaint we hear quite often from the West, that a lot of these industries in China are subsidized heavily by the government. Can you help put us into perspective? How do subsidies from the Chinese side compare to subsidies either in the EU or the US?
Well, I can clarify something. When Shirley was talking about subsidies being lifted, I believe these are demand subsidies, meaning if you are to buy an EV or even to install a solar panel in China from 2026, you don't have any subsidies. That has actually created a massive reduction in auto sales, EV sales. I think it's minus 16 overall auto sales in retail sales in the month of June. So just to give you a sense of how bad it is. Why? Because the demand is not subsidized. However, the supply continues to be subsidized, to your point. Meaning, and why? Because without those subsidies, many of these companies, but we're talking even a bit about BYD, not just the companies we would imagine are not winners. Even those subsidies those companies receive subsidies. We have basically public numbers for that, for BYD in financial statements. So, it's very easy to track. I think it's the second largest recipient of subsidies in China. So that's what it is. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that those subsidies do not make these companies profitable, which is so how big these subsidies need to be. According to the OECD, China's subsidies are 8 times bigger than Western subsidies, and yet companies are not profitable. And why are they not profitable? Because they compete among themselves. It's not about us. It's about Chinese competition. This is involution. Everybody knows about this. So they compete so much for market share to survive that they lower the prices beyond what they could, even with such big subsidies. So the question is how sustainable the model is.
When we're thinking, I'm kind of using my mind's eye, my imagination a little bit, and seeing this race to the bottom, Alicia, that you've been describing. Let's maybe stay with the electric vehicle part of this for just a moment. Surely that makes me a bit worried that mess, so to speak, could then come to Europe or the United States. Is that a risk, or am I just imagining a spillover?
I must correct one thing that we discussed a little bit earlier, which is really crucial. It's not just the demand subsidies that are being removed, that they have been removed over the past couple of years. I'm talking specifically about the supply subsidies that are being removed as of 2026.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. But in terms of this very competitive market that we're seeing with electric vehicles in China, is that something that could, if the doors are forced open by this wave of car exports, is that something we could see in Europe or the United States as well?
It's actually really interesting if you look at the European automakers and what they have been investing in China over the past few years. VW, as an example, it formed a partnership with Chinese EV player XPeng. American company Stellantis had a partnership with Leapmotor. Nearly all European and Japanese auto brands have established some sort of R&D partnerships with Chinese automakers, not to export products per se, but to jointly develop the tech infrastructure for the EV industry. So essentially what we are seeing in China is less that we're seeing the European companies are, wholesale trying to bring Chinese products into the European markets, but more so in collaborations of R&Ds, as mentioned earlier. If we look at the fundamental shift of China's R&D investments in recent years, AstraZeneca has also just made a huge announcement of building an R&D center in China. So it's less European companies coming to China to set up a factory to produce doors, elevators, or shoes or fashion. It's more European companies coming to China to develop R&D centers and the tech capabilities in order to fit it into their own international competitiveness. And so this type of global collaboration is accelerating as we speak. They are not being retrenched. You may say that, oh, yes, in certain export categories, but primarily in China's exports to the United States, we are seeing substantial retrenchments. But in terms of R&D collaboration, we are seeing accelerated growth as we speak at the moment.
Alicia, part of the reason that we're talking about this right now is of course, this rebrand that we've been seeing roll out, this idea of China Opportunity 2.0 since summer Davos. But this is just weeks ahead of two important rounds of trade talks between China and the US and China and the EU. How is China preparing for these talks in your view?
I think China realizes that we're into managed trade. Yeah. So this is the board of investment in the US. I think Europe is heading there, and China knows that there will be some form of quota. We already got Volkswagen out of import tariffs into minimum price undertaking. So, you could imagine that this could be a follow-up on that. But I want to go back to the innovation issue because I think it's essential. Yes, European, not so much American, but European companies have gotten into this gym. You have heard about the gym maybe too many times. Yeah. So basically, if you want to be fit, you need to be in China's gym. Well, this is not a gym. It's a prison. It's not a gym. And I hope European companies do realize this. For AstraZeneca to invest 15 billion in China, AstraZeneca had to put 2.5 billion in R&D. That's how it works. Because if it doesn't, there's no way that you can have the real market access you need to be in China. So R&D is being deployed as a way to, of course, innovate. I'm not saying that, it won't make our companies fitter. But there is a trade-off there because AstraZeneca will take away 2.5 billion in R&D in Oxford or Belgium to put it in China. And that basically destroys the ability for Europe to innovate in its own continent, in an indigenous innovation in Europe. So what will happen is that the best and most advanced products will be produced in China by European companies, which will export from China. This has a name. It's called China for the world. So, I'm not saying we shouldn't be in China, we shouldn't learn from China, but we have to be aware of the trade-off there.
No, I think that's a critical part of this shift towards, innovation, being an innovation hub. I've heard that loud and clear as I've gotten into this story. Shirley, what is this branding of China Opportunity 2.0? You kind of touched on this earlier, but I'm hoping you can go a little bit deeper. What does this tell you about how China is navigating tariffs that the U.S. has imposed on products?
China's drive towards this Opportunity 2.0, or more specifically under the New Quality Productive Forces, is really to drive its economy to upgrade towards the global technology frontier. And as you see today, China is inching very closer in some of the frontier industries in many sectors, including AI. In certain segments of quantum computing, China is catching up with great efforts in space technology. So it's really a part of the domestic industrial policy to move its economy towards the tech frontier. If we look at the world economic history, country's economic ascent, it begins with export of products. Then it elevates itself towards the export of technology. And then subsequently, countries will further elevate themselves to the export of global rules and norms and institutions. So that takes a long time, but it really follows a natural pattern, I think, of the global ascent of major economies. So China is not doing something exceptional in that regard. And when it comes to the tariffs and the trading goods, as mentioned, Alicia is absolutely correct. Export of services in China is still a marginal proportion of China's total exports. But we have to look into the future. In looking at the growth trajectory, I think there is a high probability that further growth of trading exports, trading services export, is going to be the scenario there. And so in trading services exports, as mentioned in the Kimi case, if a European company wants to use Kimi to build an AI application, it does not need to pay tariffs. There is no tariffs to be added. And so we have to look at the future challenges with China's services exports from a different lens from the way that we conventionally look at the goods exports from China.
Shirley, you've teed up my last question beautifully. Thank you for that, which is, this idea that China isn't necessarily doing anything special here, right? Because I can hear some of the commentators already saying, I can hear them typing already, that Germany was propped up by car exports for years. So, any kind of criticism might be a bit hypocritical. Alicia, I'll give this one to you. Is China just giving the West a taste of its own medicine here?
China's medicine is Chinese medicine. It's not Western medicine. It means it's protecting China before it gets sick. It's thinking, okay, I'm getting too much overcapacity in this, like traditional or even new manufacturing sectors, solar panels, you name it. I'm moving ahead. I'm going where the money will be, where the value added will be. Shirley said that loud and clear, and I fully agree. That's going to be digital services, yeah? So AI services, cloud, you name it. So, in that regard, Germany has always been doing what Germany could do well, where Germany was excelling, is comparative advantage. China doesn't believe in comparative advantage. China believes in, where's the next one? I'm going to be there. It's very different. So I don't think we can compare these types of medicine. Germany just was doing, and yes, with great success, but it so happens these are all sectors now. But, in a way, Germany thought, this is what I can do. I keep on doing it. China doesn't follow that recipe.
听完这场对话，核心就围绕一个关键转变。咱们中国正在从世界工厂 1.0 迈向中国机遇 2.0， 外界也将其称作中国冲击 2.0。 过去依靠低度终端商品出口的阶段慢慢过渡未来，重心转向人工智能、半导体、航天、量子科技这类前沿产业，不再只卖实物商品，而是向外输出整套技术生态。很多人会留意到，像电动车、光伏这些曾经重点扶持的产业，从2026年开始不再享受补贴，被定义为成熟产业。国家资源持续向新质生产力倾斜，但有一点不能忽视，传统出口并不会就此消失。烟材、纺织品等品类出口依旧保持韧性，新旧赛道会长期并行。支撑这一切的底层逻辑很现实，国内消费制造业与基建投资增长乏力，经济高度依赖海外市场拉动。如果缺少出口力量，整体增长很难维持。最大的变化是数字服务出口带来的规则空白。以 Kimi 这类 AI 模型为例，技术依托云端流通，不经过海关，传统关税手段完全失效。面对新局面，欧美走出两条截然不同的路线。 美国选择强硬封锁，依靠自身完善的科技产业链，推行技术管制、市场禁令，试图直接隔绝中国前沿技术。而欧洲处境更加尴尬，一方面不少本土企业正在使用中国 AR 模型开拓中东、非洲市场，另一方面又被动受制于美国单边技术政策。现阶段欧盟政策还盯着电动车、光伏等已经不再补贴的产业，相当于瞄准了过去的战场，没能提前布局前沿科技竞争。讨论里重点辨析了产业补贴问题。数据显示，中国补贴规模远高于西方国家，但大量企业依旧难以盈利。根源不在于海外竞争，而是国内激烈内卷，不断压低利润。不少人提出疑问，这是否只是复刻德国依靠汽车出口崛起的老路？嘉宾观点给出清晰区分，德国长期深耕自身具备优势的领域，中国策略更具前瞻性，主动持续抢占下一个高附加值赛道。展望即将到来的中欧、中美贸易谈判，西方手里并非没有筹码，欧洲作为高端制造出口的核心市场，拥有重要议价权，但欧盟分散的体制很难形成统一强硬的对外政策。长远来看，单纯依靠关税禁令只能应对实体商品。面对技术生态云端服务的新一轮竞争，西方急需更新贸易工具，世界正在迎来全新的科技贸易格局，这场博弈才刚刚拉开序幕。